Hey, it's Grady at Twin Creek Audio, back in the studio, and today I'm going to set up to do some recording to analog tape. I'm going to use the Soundcraft Sapphyre recording console behind me and the Tascam MSR-16 half-inch analog 16-track tape machine. In this video, I'm going to go into how I set all this up, patching some things on the patch bay to get the different channels of the console routed to different tracks on the tape machine. In future videos, I'll actually show more of the recording process of working with the console and a tape machine, as well as using outboard gear like compressors and outboard reverb units with the console and the tape machine to produce a final mix. So make sure to check back on the channel for those videos, but for now, let's get started setting up routing signals to tracks on the tape machine. So here's the drum setup that I'm going to record. This is a 1967 Ludwig Keystone badge kit. And I've got an Audix D6 on the kick drum, I've got a Beyer M201 on the snare drum, and then I have Audix D1 on the first tom, Audix i5s on the second rack tom and the floor tom. I'm not using a hi-hat mic today because the overheads are going to pick those up pretty well anyway, and I'm trying to save tracks on the tape machine. I've got a spaced pair of mics for overheads. They're Audio Technica Pro 37R. All of the microphones run over to the wall patch panel. So I've got the first 8 channels there plugged in. Those are all the drum mics that I'm using. Those come up over on the patch bay by the console so that I can patch them to, in this case, I'm going to use some different preamps. So I'm going to patch the kick and the snare mic over there on the patch bay to some different mic preamps, and then maybe use the console preamps for the rest of the drums. Here are the patch bays. This set of patch bays, the auxiliary patch bays, they're all 1/4 inch, and they're mostly microphone inputs and outputs from the mic panel, at least up here 1 through 16 is the mic panel, and then some of these are also inputs to some of the outboard preamps that I have. I've also got the built-in patch bay on the console, so I'll explain how this works. The top row is coming from the mic panel that you saw in the drum clip. And so I've got channel 1 here, which is the kick drum, plugged into the input of one of my CAPI VP26 mic preamps. The snare drum, I've plugged it into the input of the Golden Age Pre-573 Premier Edition. So that's what these 2 cables are doing. Now these other 5 right here are taking the rest of the drum mics and plugging them into the Sapphyre, the mic preamps on the console. And the reason they're on this bottom row is because of the way that the console is set up. The tape machine is set up on the right side of the console on channels 25 through 40, with the left side of the console 1 through 24 being the digital system. So rather than patching the outputs of channels whatever 4 through 8 over here on the main patch bay, I just went ahead and moved the microphone channels. The microphones now are routed to the channels on the correct side of the mixer that are already connected to the tape machine. I think I am going to combine these 3 tom mics here down to 2 tracks on the tape machine in stereo to save a track. Here is the console's built-in patch bay, and you can see over here the white cable, or gray as it were, is patched from the output of the VP26 microphone preamp to the tape send of channel 25, which is actually connected to track 1 on the Tascam MSR-16. You can also see that the output of the Golden Age Pre-573 right here is patched to the tape send on channel 26, which is going to track 2 on the Tascam MSR-16. The cables up there on the top right, those black cables over there, those are just a split for the monitor so I can record the output of the console for the video. So they're not really doing anything of interest, while these other 2 are patching from my outboard preamps to 2 tracks on the tape machine. Now it's time to group the toms so we can get those to some buses to record to 2 tracks instead of 3, since we have 3 tom mics. Now on this console, these small faders are the channel faders. Normally these are used to send to tape, and then the big faders down here are the monitor faders. They are used to hear what's on tape or what's playing through the tape machine in input mode if you're setting levels or recording. So we're really only concerned with these 3 faders, and we've got the mic preamps at the top adjusted gain wise correctly for the 3 microphones. And we've got these assigned to subgroup 3 and 4 right here with these 3 routing switches, and then we have all 3 of these faders turned up. Now I can pan these between those two subgroups. I'm not necessarily a drummer, but I play drums, so I tend to pan my drums more drummer's perspective. So we're going to pan the toms across like this, and then that's going to go to subgroups 3 and 4. Now on this console, we have a floating subgroup architecture. So any of these channels can be turned into subgroups, and they're marked at the bottom down here. You can see right here, channel 29/bus 5, channel 30/bus 6. Well, we want a channel that's not going to get in the way of our 16-track tape machine that's connected to these channels all the way up here to 40. So I'm going to choose these last two channels down here to become my subgroups. There are two purple colored sub buttons at the top of the channel strips on the Sapphyre that I can use to turn these two channels into subgroups 3 and 4. So I've got those faders up. Now my mix of the 3 faders of the toms should be going to these, since now they're subgroups. It's kind of a weird console, but hopefully that makes sense. We've got our stereo submix of toms routed to subgroup 3 and 4, which is now these two channels here. These faders are up, so now all that's left to do is patch the subgroups to the tracks on the tape machine that we want. So in this case, since we have a floating bus architecture, we need to find the outputs for channel 43 and 44, which are down here on the patch bay. So since our channels convert to subgroups in this case, we patch the channel outputs of channel 43 and 44 up to the tape send that goes to track 3 and 4 on the tape machine. Of course, those are channels 27 and 28 here on the console because of the way we have two different recording devices set up with this console. A kick on track 1 going to track 1 on the tape machine, snare going to track 2. I've got stereo toms going to 3 and 4. So now I need overheads. Now the overheads are plugged into these two channels on the consoles, 31 and 32. Of course, that's 7 and 8 over on the patch panel. And that's also 7 and 8 on the tape machine, the way that it's wired normally. So what I want to do is I want to patch these two channels, 7 and 8, over to tracks 5 and 6 on the tape machine. That'll make the fader setup down here make more sense. So let me grab a couple of patch cables. Patch my channel output of channel 31, where my left overhead mic is connected. I'm going to patch that from the channel output to the tape send of channel 29, which is going to track 5 on the tape machine. Then I'll also come over here from channel out of channel 32, and we're going to patch that to the tape send of channel 30, which is going to track 6 on the tape machine. So now I have my two overhead mics here using the output, the channel output or direct output. I've patched those over to tracks 5 and 6 on the tape machine. Now our track layout should make more sense. We've got these 3 channels, which are our tom mics, are being sent to subgroups 3 and 4, which you saw in the previous clip. And then they're coming back from the tape machine on 3 and 4 right here. Because remember, these are being subgrouped, sent to subgroup 3 and 4, which are being sent to track 3 and 4 on the tape machine. And then they're coming back from the tape machine here, and I have those panned in stereo. So this would be our monitor mix: kick, snare, stereo toms, overheads. Basically, the small faders normally are the channel faders, and they would be used to send signals to the tape machine. And then the big faders are the monitor faders, there for monitoring the signals coming back from the tape machine. So that explains this strange configuration, except for the fact we're not using our channel faders 1 and 2 because those are external preamps. But we have the return of the tape machine here for kick and snare, so we can hear those. Channel 3 and 4 monitor faders here, so we can hear the toms. Our overheads are these two channel faders, again using the internal mic preamps of the console, and then those are being patched over to track 5 and 6 on the tape machine, which is coming back to these two monitor faders so we can hear the overheads. I've got 6 tracks of drums already going to the tape machine, routed through the console and some outboard preamps. So now I'm going to connect the bass guitar. I'm going to use this Countryman Active DI box because I think these things sound really good on bass. And since I have a mic patch panel here, I can patch into one of the console channels with a female XLR to 1/4 inch TRS. Now it's time to check the levels of the bass guitar going to tape. Now the bass is going through the DI box, and then it's going through a mic preamp, then to the tape machine. The tape machine is in input monitor mode, so the tape machine is passing its input signal out to the output, which is going back to the big console over here behind me. And we're hearing basically the signal going from the bass through the tape machine and back out of the console master outputs. I'm then recording that digitally so you can hear the instrument as I'm setting the levels to the tape machine. Notice I don't even have any tape on the machine yet. We're just getting levels in input monitor mode. It looks like we've got pretty good levels, maybe just a little bit too much. I may pull that down before I actually record any bass with this setup, but it's pretty close. Now I'm going to set up to record a guitar to the tape machine through the console. I'm just going to use the console preamps, and I'm using the DI output from my Hot Tone Britwind Nano Legacy floor amp. I have the cab simulator switch on, and then I've got it plugged into one of the channels on the Soundcraft Sapphyre. Now it's time to check the levels of guitar going to tape on track 11. You're hearing the guitar, the amp, which is the Hot Tone Britwind Nano Legacy floor amp, using the cab simulated DI output from the Hot Tone through one of the channels on the console. Then it goes to track 11 on the tape machine, which is in input mode. So it's passing the input signal straight through to the output, which goes back to the monitor section or the monitor channels on the big console, the big fader at the bottom. And then of course that's going to the master bus of the console, and I'm recording that digitally so you can hear the entire signal chain minus the tape, which if you'll check back on the channel for the next in this series of video, you'll get to hear actual tape recordings with the setup I'm doing in this video. So make sure to like and subscribe, check back on the channel. But let's set some guitar levels now, or at least make sure that they're good. That'll work. So it looks like we're hitting about +5 on the meter on the Tascam MSR-16, which is going to be fine because machines like the MSR-16 are pretty forgiving and have a pretty good amount of headroom, as long as you're not trying to send a +4 nominal line level signal into them, because these machines and a lot of others like them are -10 nominal line level. I hope you found that interesting and at least somewhat educational or informative. Make sure to check back on the channel for future videos where I use the recording setup from this video to actually record some tracks and then mix the tracks back from tape through the console for a final mix. Also make sure to like this video and subscribe to the Twin Creek Audio YouTube channel if you have not done so already. I truly appreciate everyone that watches my videos. Thank you so much to all the new subscribers. I hope each and every one of you out there has an excellent day, night, evening, weekend, weekday, hour, minute, second, nanosecond, whatever it is you're having. Have a good one. Thanks for watching.